Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to get started shortly. Just give it a couple more seconds for others to join. But again, really appreciate you all for being on. We've got a great program for you all today, and we'll get started in a moment. Awesome. Great, and thanks for everyone who's joining us on Facebook as well. We're live streaming on Facebook and on Zoom. Really excited to have you all be part of this conversation. We've got a great set of panelists on the agenda for today who are going to be sharing lots of important information about what's going on here in Fresno and in the Central Valley with regards to the homeless population. So again, thanks so much for being on. Really appreciate you all. Great. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and kick it off. My name is Luis Ojeda. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a regional organizing and program manager with the ACLU of Northern California, based here in Fresno, and I'll be moderating today's session. And again, really humbled to be here amongst our great panelists who are going to be sharing lots and lots of knowledge. So again, really want to thank you all for being able to join us today and be a part of this conversation. So with that, we're going to go ahead and kick off our session with an introduction from each of the panelists. So the panelists are going to introduce themselves and also share a little bit about what they do in the community and also answer this question about what is the meaning of home to you? So who would like to kick us off?
I'll start.
Great.
My name is Jonas Palos. He, him, his. And I am homeless veterans advocate in Fresno for 5 years as a volunteer. I'm not an organization. I've been taking veterans to their treatment, sign them up for the VA for their money, for their claims. So anybody who's listening, I'm very knowledgeable. I have volunteered at the VA for 2 years. So I'm at the VSO office, Service Veterans Office, and I know all their benefits. I even do upgrading your military discharge and changing the reason for discharge. A lot of these veterans that are homeless, they are discharged without paperwork. So I ask for it and I get them to fix it. And it takes us a lot of process. And I'm really glad that I got into this work because I was homeless myself a few years ago. I'm legally blind. I was blinded by a doctor, and I suffer from concussion, so I do have PTSD from sports. With that said, what does home mean to me is security. Home means security for me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Des Martinez, and I am the founder and director of We Are Not Invisible. I'm also the founder of the advocacy group Homeless in Fresno. What do I do in my role is I'm a director, an advocate, I'm a friend. I provide services where the other organizations have gaps. And by meaning that, like when they run out of certain things, hygiene, food, bedding, clothing, any necessities that they need to survive, I fill in those gaps with that. Also transportation, vigils, funerals. Oh my goodness, we do so much. It's a lot. So I would actually take a long time to say what I do. I am also, the meaning of home to me is family. Wherever you have family, wherever you have love, that's home. That's what the meaning of home to me is. Love, compassion, and family. So that's all I have. Brandy?
Hi, my name is Brandy Nuse-Villegas. She, her, hers. I'm on the board for We Are Not Invisible as secretary, and I'm also a volunteer with We Are Not Invisible. I go out onto the streets alongside of We Are Not Invisible and alongside of our street family members, and help with any tasks, with different tasks that are needed with We Are Not Invisible. I've been with them for about 4 years. And I think in addition to those two different definitions of home, I would contribute the idea that home is a dwelling place that includes a sense of belonging, which goes along with the family, a sense of ownership of the place, a sense of a feeling of refuge and a place of rest.
My name is Akifa Frost. For me, I mean, I do a lot as well. I mean, I just had a baby, so I kind of wasn't able to be out as much. I mean, I have gone out and I help dads like pass out water and stuff like that. Uh, I'm more of course, advocate for homeless, but also for homeless youth. And for me, home is comfort where there's safety. You know what I'm saying? I want for me, home would be, you know, for me to feel comfortable, for me to feel safe, to just kind of like a security blanket. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's home for me, especially because I do have kids. So, I mean, home is like, you know, even like Dad said, you know, it's where you have family, you know, and blood doesn't make you related. I mean, blood makes you related. It just doesn't make you family all the time. You know what I mean? So for me, I mean, like Dad is family to me. You know what I mean? But I mean, yeah, I don't do as much as I mean everybody else, but I mean, I definitely do advocate as well.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And so now you've heard from the various panelists who are going to be sharing from their own personal experience, all the work that they're doing. And we're going to be focusing today on COVID and how COVID has impacted the homeless community here in Fresno. So we have a series of questions that we're going to be asking the panelists, and then we're also going to have some time for Q&A. So at any point in time, if you want to put a question into the chat box or comment on Facebook, we'll be having some time for Q&A later on in the program. So feel free to put those questions in there and we'll have some time later on to answer those questions. So with that, we're going to go ahead and kick it off with some of these questions. So our first question, and anyone who can chime in for this one, if you can just start by telling us, how has COVID affected the homeless community in Fresno? Big question.
Let me see. How has COVID affected the homeless community in Fresno? It was a lot worse on the street family members than it was any organization. By that, I mean, there were shelters that had shut down services for food service. There were shelters that went from housing or bedding 200 individuals a night to 30 a night because of social distancing. There was no more going inside of a shelter to sit down and eat. You had to stand outside and be handed the food. Oh my gosh, there's so many. And I'm speaking on my experience, boots on the ground. So that's what I'm speaking from myself. It's affected them to the point to where some people, it was hard enough to get food, and you can't get inside of a store without a mask. There's only so many masks that are being handed out to the street family members themselves that sometimes they don't have it, or they can't go in and get food because you do not have a mask. It's affected them. I'm sure there's so many more. I'm trying to think of everything all at once, but it affected the homeless community a lot. There's a lot more people that are out here in the streets due to COVID, and that's due to the COVID rules, social distance, wear mask, only so many people in a room. So there was a lot of lack of shelter for the street family members, less than there was, and less resources and food available for them because of COVID. Also with resources like having appointments, going to your appointments, getting your food stamp card, your ID, things that they need that are necessary in order to get to the next step. everything was put onto hold for them. So it was hard enough for them in the beginning, but COVID affected the homeless community tremendously in a negative way. That's it. Next.
I'll
This
jump in.
Jonas.
Go ahead. Oh, Jonas, you want to go?
Yes,
Go.
thank you, Brandy. Yes, it affected, like Des said, I agree with all because we see it on the ground every day. It affected my veterans greatly. The VA paused and all those organizations. We have events to help our homeless veterans called Stand Up for the men, like homeless, we help them. And the Stand Down for women, it's supposed to be October 12th. And for the men, it's a 3-night stay. And they check out on the 4th day to stand down from September 15th until the 18th. It was canceled also. And then we had the Madeira in April, it was canceled also. Is difficult right now for our veterans. They didn't receive any services. Their appointments being canceled. They don't know Zoom, conference calls because they have government phones. It's been very, very difficult. And you know what? It's just a game changer. And then the 6 feet, like Des knows, we're very affectionate. That's how we're able to win our street family members' trust, because we hug them and stuff. And it affected us because, now we gotta, be cautious, and it affected them also. Like she said, they don't have masks in their whole world, and, stay 6 feet apart. And just made it difficult. Like even before we had homelessness, big problem. Now it just even got more because of the pause. All the shelters are full. Thank you.
Oh, okay, I'll jump in. There are several things, and maybe with these things might jog Des's brain again. She may want to circle back to these things, so let her jump back in for some of these if that happens. There are several things from my experience with some of the people I've befriended out here. I live in Central Fresno, and some of them mentioned about, I remember a couple of months ago when things were hot and everything stuff, there is the less access to things is a major thing. There was someone who, she continues to mention about the fact that, with there's a lot of bathrooms aren't open that used to be open for businesses, and now they're not open to people. And we've, I'm sure some of us experienced that where, you just have to wait till you get home, but they can't. And so there's an issue with lack of things like that. And I remember that when I was talking to one of the people who were telling me about this before I think it was a neighborhood watch meeting, and wanting to let people know what our local council members know what they're dealing with. They mentioned about the fact that I think there was an issue where the bathroom at the local park was closed, so they had nothing to, and she mentioned about how she's older, she has to go to the bathroom a lot, she needs to be able to have access, and something as simple as that creates major issues for something for her that other people wouldn't have to think about. And one, I think it should be noted that the CDC, one of their recommendations regarding those who are homeless is that bathrooms be open 24/7, that there be things to sanitize hands, make sure that that's available to those who are homeless for the sake of, because hygiene is a huge part of staying safe in this. So there need to be more access at parks. And I'm not sure, you may be able to weigh in, someone else, about the access at different public bathrooms at parks, but that was the issue. Also, just being able to go, there's places where the only way to be able to, at different points, to get food in certain places was to go through a drive-through or do pickup over the internet, and they didn't have that option. There is no going into into the dining rooms for things, so there was less access to food. And that was notable also because when it was hot, because it wasn't a place to be able to get food and have that refuge in there from the heat for a little while as they were eating. She also told me, I just spoke recently to one of them, and she told me that during COVID, not only that, but she noticed that there was a huge change in attitude when they would go into gas stations and restaurants where people seem to be a lot more unfriendly, like more judgy, more hostile towards her and other people when they would go into, you know, a fast food restaurant or other place to be able to, you know, buy things that they needed, and they felt like there was a lot more hostility, even if they were wearing masks. And so it seems like there was she's experiencing a change of attitude due to with the pandemic towards those who are homeless, trying to use their money to be able to access things. In a different thing, just piggybacking off of something that I think Des said as far as services, you know, earlier this year, we were trying to get there's a woman, an elderly woman that we were helping to get off the into permanent housing. We got her into motels using her own money. And it just so happens that the housing that we assisted in getting her in opened up right as a pandemic hit. And then there's one of the issues that we were aware of is that places like the Social Security office was closed. There was different services that you could not access through there, that you had to access online or over the phone, and there was no way she would have been able to handle that. And so there was things that she needed with documentation, with her award letters, different things that were just that much more difficult. And because we were here to help and, you know, surmount those problems, we were able to get her what she needed. But that's, you know, the different offices for social services being closed, you know, and other things, you know, created more of a hardship for people who don't have, you know, the option of going online or using other ways, especially those who are elderly or don't know how to navigate that, and they're used to being able to walk in and take care of their needs.
I agree, Brandy. I just wanted to piggyback on you on what you just brought up. But when COVID first started, we had a lack of resources, and that's why the community that we have would always get together, and you would see churches and you would see just individuals that love their community and wanted to help. There used to be tons of donations that came out, tons of food that came out that replaced what they weren't getting at the local feedings at the shelters. Or it was hard enough then before COVID, but when COVID stopped, so did the community outreach and donations. So did the outreach from these organizations that are supposed to be out here helping. So those resources stopped, along with the community resources. The community outreach, the church food, the food lines, I mean, everything really just stopped for the homeless. And that was one of the saddest times I think I ever experienced. The homeless world was sad enough for me, but when COVID hit, it was hard. It was work 24/7, because you're trying to fill the gap now of every agency and organization and community member that did come out. We were trying to cover what was lacking now, and we never had enough. Never had enough. And they're kind of still going through it, you know? So I just wanted to piggyback on that, Randy, because you reminded me of something I wanted to say. Oh, there was less donations coming into the organization. A lot less. We used to get tons and tons of donations and stuff. And with people losing their jobs and stuff, they didn't have the funding to send in to get blankets and water and resources, stuff that the individuals needed. And it's still kind of going on today, you know, and I understand, because people lose their jobs and people are afraid. They don't want to become homeless themselves. They have less to give now. And that does affect the homeless community also. That's it.
Well, I'm gonna. Hello?
I think Kifa's going to add something, and then Jonas, you can go after.
Okay.
No, what I noticed a lot too was transportation. Transportation became way much harder than it needed to be. I mean, like literally just along with the bus systems, you know, they only allowed 10 people on the bus at a time. That included if you had your child with you. I mean, yes, they are a person, but I mean, they could sit on your lap, you know what I mean? But, you know, only 10 people. You know, it was like when you get on, you know, put hand sanitizer on, you know, things like that. And then everything that they were, you know, our homeless family were once told, go to the Poverello house, go to Naomi's house, go and try to get all these resources, are now they're limited. You know what I mean? Like being able to go and shower and things like that because you know it's sanitation. So it's like I know it's definitely a lot of issues with that. You know, and even once again, like I said, even with Map Point, if they're you know they were giving people rides to their doctor's appointments, things like that. What are they going to do now that it's cold and the lack of resources? They're not going to be able to get the help that they really need. So like transportation is a huge thing. And then like even if they whether it's panhandling or whatever, even if they get the $1.25 to get to where they got to go, like that said, they don't have masks. So how are they going to get on? You know what I mean? How are they going to even get the help that they need? I mean, even just trying to go to the hospital, they want you to have a mask on. So it's kind of like, if I don't have a mask, you're just going to have to provide me one. So, like, that definitely becomes an even harder issue. Also, like, you know, like Brady said, as far as like public parks and things like that, they shut the whole park down. You know, you can't even take your kids to go and play. You know what I mean? It got so bad that literally, you know, like some people were cutting holes in the fences just so they can go and use the restroom. And that's sad because it shouldn't even be that way. And as far as food and stuff like that goes, yeah, you know, you couldn't walk into 7-Eleven and be like, I just want to buy a cup of hot water. You know what I'm saying? Or anything that you really needed because, you know, some people feel uncomfortable because they're like, okay, you're homeless, you don't have a mask, you don't have, you know, you're like even quarantining, like quarantine is how are they supposed to quarantine and they're homeless? It's like you're not gonna be able to quarantine. They're like quarantine for 14 days. They're homeless. They don't have a place to go for 14 days to stay away from other people. So I mean, it definitely affected the homeless community like big time. I can definitely say that.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people know that that one organization is a church organization over at POV. Akiva, do you remember it? The one where the women went and showered at?
I want to say it's Holy Cross for Women.
Yes. What a lot of people
Yeah.
don't know is Holy Cross for Women was the only place for women, and we had 206 people down there at POV living on the streets at this time when COVID hit. I would say half of them are women. That's where they would be able to go shower. And I don't think a lot of people know that it's shut down when COVID hit. This means that you still have women out here right now that have not showered since COVID. The lack of shower, humanity, dignity, it breaks you. I've seen a lot of spirits broken just because they haven't been able to take showers. And with them shutting down during COVID and not allowing anybody to take showers and also laundry, that affects the community. You're already broken. And you add on no showers and no clean clothes, I mean, and no food. So I don't think the community really knows how hard COVID hit the homeless community. I know a lot of people out there right now that might be watching know themselves, but I don't think the community in a wide range really knows what was really going on in the homeless community during COVID and still now today.
Do you
Yeah,
want
that
to
was
chime in?
actually, oh, sorry, I just was gonna say, I heard that just today, someone mentioned about the issue with showers and just feeling like there was that, you know, there wasn't access to that and the need for, so, yeah, I was just agreeing with that and hearing from someone today about that who is unsheltered.
Yes, thank you. Akifa touched on that. Yes, 10 ridership. I was going to say about the transportation. I'm actually a board member. And yeah, people donating masks to me because I'm just a volunteer. I do everything for free for the veterans. I had 6,000 masks donated to me from July 15th all the way until October 16th. And I used to give them out to our street family members so they could ride their bus and get their services. So that stopped for me. So I haven't received anything this month. Hopefully somebody will send me some masks from all over the United States, which is beautiful. And now Fax is not going to pay overtime to the drivers to let somebody. I'm a bus rider. I'm glad I know this. They're not going to pay overtime. They're going to take that bus to the yard. So the wait's going to be longer with the cold that's coming in. just going to add more to what's already going on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for sharing. And so, yeah, as you're hearing here from our panelists, right, there's lots of things that are happening on the ground. Some of y'all may know what's going on. Some of you are maybe hearing it for the first time. So it's really amazing that you all are joining and learning more about it. One thing that we've been hearing on the news, right, is that the numbers of cases and numbers of deaths have been going up. We just returned back into the purple tier here for most of the state, but here in Fresno. And so one of the questions that we wanted to ask was around the number of people. We know that they do the daily or the annual counts of the number of people experiencing homelessness. And I wanted to see if you all have a sense of how the numbers have gone up or down during COVID and what you're seeing on the ground.
Wow, the numbers have skyrocketed. I'm still in shock by the amount of individuals that have become homeless due to COVID. The amount of vehicles now that I'm seeing out on the streets, the amount of inboxes and messages and emails that I get constantly every single day. It's like every day. It's not every other day, it's every single day. I'm about to be homeless. My house, I got kicked out of my house. I mean, the sheriffs are here knocking on my door. What do I do? Where do I go? The numbers have skyrocketed. There's nowhere you can go in Fresno. Nowhere you can go in Fresno without seeing a vehicle on the side of the street now. I mean, we have housed people that are out here living in their cars, parking in front of their friends' houses or in their driveways because their tags are out. They lost their job. I would say over 1,000 people. I would say we had 4,500 people homeless prior to COVID. I know there's a pit count out there and stuff, but still, there's impossible to count every single homeless individual. So if they have a number right now about 3,200, imagine how many people are not seen and heard during the winter time when this pit count is done. It's the worst time of the year to do it. So you're definitely not going to have a correct number on the pit count. I think our numbers are up so high. It's just, I just never seen it in the going on 6 years now that I've been out here, boots on the ground. I don't think I have seen this many. I thought I used to, the amount that was out here, I was like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. You know, I can help people. But now I'm so overwhelmed. Sometimes I'm afraid to answer my phone, you know, because every second somebody needs help. Every second somebody's getting kicked out. Every second somebody's cold or hungry. And it's affected me mentally because I can't help them all anymore. It's so many. I just can't. I can't. And so it's huge. I think the numbers are beyond 5,000 people that we have living literally on the streets of Fresno. That's not counting the amount of children that are registered with the school system that are living in motels or over at a friend's family or in a garage or in their RV or something parked in front of somebody's house. We're not counting. I'm not counting those. I'm saying street homelessness. I think we're past 5,000 now, especially with COVID. And it's going to get worse if we don't do something, because the individuals that have vehicles that they're sleeping in right now, if they don't have any money to pay their tags, guess who's coming to tow their vehicle from them? The city. And once their vehicle is towed, now they will become street homeless. So that's my question. Next.
Yeah, you know,
Go ahead.
yes, thank you. I follow through with that. Yes, it's a lot of them. There's no way of knowing. They're in the middle of the alleys. They're under bridges. They're behind churches. Just everywhere. They're on freeways. Now that they cleaned up Santa Clara, there's a lot more of them, and including my veterans, because they don't have their paperwork. They're other than honorable. Nothing can get started until their paperwork get right. So there's a lot of those. Among those 5,000 homeless, probably about 1,500 are veterans, or maybe half. We don't know until they open up to me. So it's a lot more. And not only that, the eviction started already on O Street since September. So just like they said, the evictions already started because AB 3088, it didn't go far enough to protect the tenants. It's even confusing to the lawyers, you know, it's just wasn't clear. You have to write a notice why you didn't pay your rent because of COVID every month to the landlord. A lot of our immigrant population probably don't understand that, thinking a phone call or email would do, but it's really difficult time.
Um, I mean, as far as like the numbers go, I mean, I noticed a lot, like definitely, like I said, I just had a baby. So when I went in to deliver my son, like the lady, just even just people getting sick in general, like a lot of pregnant people right now are getting COVID as well. So, like a lot of people that's trying to have their babies right now, like that includes on top of that, like if you have COVID and you're pregnant, the chance of your child getting it as well, that is a very high, it's a very high percentage that the child's going to get it as well. So there's a lot of children out here, like there's also said within like the school and stuff like that. I mean, even though they're doing distant learning, it's like there's still a lot of people that's out there right now that still has COVID. I mean, just think about, okay, even if you're homeless and you get COVID, what can you do about that? You can't really do anything about it. So it's like that's kind of like messed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, some real stuff, because like they have nowhere to go. I know what it's like to be homeless. I've been out there, and God knows, like, I don't know what I would do if I had got COVID, because I also have kids. You know what I mean? So, like, the numbers, like, yeah, like you said, we're back in the purple tier. That's high. Those are high percentages right there. That's not, there's like nothing to joke about. There's so many people that's losing their life right now because of COVID. So it's like, I mean, what can really be done at this point? Like, I really don't know. Like, as far as trying to help the homeless not get COVID, because it's like they don't have masks, they can't quarantine, they can't do anything. So, what's going to happen other than it spread? I mean, that's all I have to say.
I think that people address it pretty well, but going on with like the low numbers just from pit count, I just want to elaborate a little with Des said, and she can probably clarify or correct me if necessary. Hopefully you can't hear the train behind me. But a lot of the issues with counting during the winter time is that, if I'm not mistaken, that there are people, because of the extreme weather, might try to, as much as possible, use whatever money they have to try to get indoors, or find some way to get indoors, stay with someone temporarily, do something to be able to, get out of the weather as much as possible, but it's not permanent. They're still homeless, or still, they still don't have secure housing. So there's a number of issues that have affected the numbers with pit count. So, and then as we said, because of the issues concerning COVID, a lot more people who are vulnerable, because a lot of people are one crisis, one hardship, one paycheck away from losing their housing. And I knew someone who at the beginning of it, who was able to, that did lose their housing. It was in a process where it, because of the situation, because of other people living there, the landlord basically evicted everyone. And I believe because of, I'm not positive, but I think because of that, it was because of the situation didn't fall under the protections of the rental thing. She lost housing because of other people, because she came in later and they evicted everyone. So there is a lot of vulnerabilities, because a lot of people end up homeless because of, they just don't have, because they're already vulnerable. So the numbers are, being out there, you can tell that the numbers are way higher than even estimated.
Mhm.
Thank you all so much. And now we're going to move on to elaborating a little bit more. You all kind of were talking a little bit about this and some of the different programs that were available or that have been available since COVID started. And in particular, there are some resources that the state and the city and the county were working to disseminate and help the homeless population. So I wanted to ask, what are some of the resources that are currently at the moment being offered to homeless community right now in Fresno?
I'll go ahead. Yes, I'll say the Pavarella House, the Rescue Mission, which they're all full. And then there's a CAP, which used to be a rehabilitation center. Actually, Des ran it. She was she was a director there from December last year, 13 till February of this year. She did a great job. She actually connected me with some of the veterans, and I helped them from there to get to the VA and to get to their housing. So she did a great job because she knows what she's doing. She not only that, she's very compassionate, and I thank her for that. Yeah, there is that. Okay, there's CAP. That's also temporary shelters. There's the Rescue Mission. There's a Pavarella House. There is Naomi's house, which is, I believe, it's only one house. It's already been occupied. What else? I'm forgetting one more shelter. Turning Point. There's one on Golden State, and there's one on L Street in San Joaquin. That's about it.
Let me see. What are resources being offered to the street family members right now? Well, we're still kind of at a standstill for, I'll turn on my light in a minute, you guys. I didn't know it was gonna get that dark that fast. We have shelters closing right now. So if the question is what's going on right now and the resources, nothing. I mean, we have, like Jonah said, we have
Yes.
Fresno Rescue Mission that I believe they're still doing the social distance, which we're still down to 30 people a night. They did during COVID have the family shelter, which is amazing. Thank you, Matt, for doing that. I mean, it's much been needed for a very, very long time. Let me see, Pavarello House got some brand new cabins. They're nice, you guys. I don't know if you have seen them, but they got some cabins, which means these cabins hold more people than just two. They can go up to 4 people. They're so nice. They got heaters. And they got a plug in there so they can charge their phone so they can take care of their business, but they have heaters and windows. So Pavarello House is doing that. Pavarello House really stepped up. I'm going to say that. I want to put that out there that Pavarello House really stepped up during COVID when everybody else was shutting down. Instead of saying we're not going to feed everybody because we can't fit everybody in the cafeteria, they took the cafeteria outside. They set up the tables, they set up everything. It was really nice. It was really cool to go over there and sit down and eat. They fought for these cabins, and the cabins finally came in and stuff, which again, they get to house more than the amount of people that were there. And I believe it was like 15, and now they're up to what, 35, 40 that they can house now at the cabins. Unfortunately, a couple of shelters that opened, there's really not that many resources out here. It's always, we're closed. You can't set your appointments. There's not a lot. There's not a lot of resources right now at this time. And it's due to lack of transitional housing. Shelters need to go. I mean, that's a Band-Aid on a big open wound, and it's not working. Shelters are not working. We need transitional housing. We need more resources to come back. We need another CAP open. We need a detox. We need another Spirit of Women back open. We need a place for individuals to go and have resources that they need during COVID, and even before COVID, and even after COVID. But yeah, that's all. Let me go turn on my light.
I actually had a question for Days. I mean, just I am a youth advocate. I'm trying to figure out is like EOC still allowing the youth to go to the youth shelter, or did they shut that down as well? I mean, I just wanted to know about that because I wasn't sure. I mean, you know, I know quite a few youth that are homeless right now, and I mean, I would rather than go there than go nowhere. And like you said, stay in their cars. And I mean, I don't stay that far from the fair, and there's people that's like literally parked inside of the parking lot just to get a good place to sleep at night. But no, I just wanted to know if the EOC shelter on T Street in Tulare was still open or not.
Yeah, I believe it is open. I didn't hear about it closing at all during COVID, but unfortunately, because when COVID hit, with the lack of resources and a lot of the shelters taking, not serving or providing shelter, it threw me into overdrive. And I have been now around the Ventura and G Street area since COVID started. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to follow up on the youth shelter. I think if there's anybody on here when we have the Q&As, that would be amazing if somebody from the shelter that knows about that. I know that they did get a large amount of money to add more beds, and hopefully they did that. So I'll put that on my list to follow up.
This is not, I mean, you can see that overall that the challenge is, sustainable resources. We do have a lack of there's a lack of shelter beds when you consider how many people are out there compared to how many shelter beds we have. And we had a lot of people early on who were ready to go into, to get into motel, get into something that they were hoping would happen, and it didn't happen. So it's I think it's important to note that it's a little bit of a challenge to get into the shelters. I know that I believe and you can clarify this, that there is, it's easiest if you have someone working with you who can refer you and help you get in. But considering that, these are that they're always full, so you're waiting for an opening, but there's no, if I'm not mistaken, there's no waiting list. So there is no, putting your name in there and hoping to get in as soon as you can. And that's a challenge for people, especially considering that a lot of the shelters are, out in in away from kind of out on the Golden State or in other places that are a little bit more remote. So that's a challenge. I do, on a different note, as a positive note, like I said, it's, we need more sustainable thing, but just to add a positive thing on there, that as far as resources, I appreciate that when COVID, with We Are Not Invisible, when the COVID hit, we had people from the community that helped, that partnered, and Des working really hard and got like Project Feed Team, I think it's the name of it.
COVID Feed Team, shout out Marilyn and Alan. Yes, COVID Feed Team.
A bunch of people from Big Red Church and whatever and stuff came out, like, during these things and made food and kind of like recognized that there was a drop in people doing food outreach and, invested time in doing that. And there was people who donated waters during the summer and everything, and people that are donating, businesses that are donating food like this coming weekend and whatnot that are, not ongoing, but with the best one I saw with We Are Not Invisible, and the people who partnered and stepped up to be able to give, that can talk about that more, was really encouraging, because the people were trying to step in and fill fill in that need.
Yes, and I must say that, if it wasn't for Marilyn and Alan Coles, I probably would have lost my mind. I don't know how many times I broke down and cried because I couldn't feed everybody. I couldn't do it all by myself. And two amazing, amazing people that stepped forward and said, I don't care, let's go. Let's go. We'll use the Big Red Church. Thank you. They allowed us to utilize their kitchen. So you guys, since COVID started, since day one, and everything was shut down, these two angels have been continuously every Sunday. And I don't think they're going to stop even when COVID's done, but the people love them, and just them coming out and being able to give them a smile and tell them everything's okay. Now everybody knows every Sunday they are getting homemade meals, and I couldn't thank them enough, because like I said, when everybody else stopped, it really got hard. And these are two community angels that stepped forward, and they should get an award in Fresno for doing this too. So
I think that's a really great segue to sharing a little bit more about some of these stories. As you all have shared, there are thousands of people who are experiencing homelessness in Fresno, but there just isn't enough services. But you all are out there every day doing amazing work. And so I think it's really important for people to hear some of these stories. So I'd love to hear from each of you sort of around anything that's really, warmed your heart or made you feel really optimistic about the future, about the amazing work that you all are doing.
I actually wanted to kind of add something real quick. I mean, I think that is definitely a plus side. I mean, I know that welfare is not really open right now as far as like their offices and stuff, but like there's a lot of stores right now. I think all the way up until I think they said November 24th, they're actually allowing people to use their EBT food to buy hot food. So that definitely is a plus side. I mean, that warms my heart because at least like I know some have welfare, maybe not all of them right now, but at least you can go and get a hot cocoa. You can go and kind of try to stay warm and get something to eat, and it can be hot. You get what I'm saying, and not have to be like, okay, well now I got to find a microwave, or I got to go and try to find hot water. So that definitely warmed my heart a little bit because I'm like, that's at least a plus side to it. It's not the best, but at least it's still something.
what was the question again, Luis? Can you say it one more time?
Yeah, sure. So it's really about highlighting the amazing work that you all are doing on the ground. So I was just pointing out, right, that we know that there aren't enough resources, there aren't enough beds, there aren't enough homes for people, but you all are still going out there every day and still contacting people and helping them out. And so I think just letting people know about the amazing work and resources that you all are providing people with would be really nice to hear.
I don't know how many people know or if everybody knows that COVID got so hard that they know I deal with the homeless task force. They know I do my advocacy work out there. When I opened up the Safe Camp, I was amazed by the amount of community that showed support for the Safe Camp. I mean, people were constantly sending in donations. People were constantly asking, can I come out and help? We had, I'm not going to name any names because if I say a couple names and I forget a few, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But I mean, I had so many individuals come out and provide huge donations that we can utilize at the camp and in the future organization. But I mean, the amount of food that you guys brought, the community brought to the camp, it was amazing. We did not starve. I mean, I think it was the first time experiencing being out there, boots on the ground, and the street family members, they didn't have to worry about waking up and not having anything to eat. They didn't have to worry about lunch. They didn't have to worry about dinner. They didn't have to worry about safety. And the community provided this because I just gave it, what was given to me, but the community did this. And there's so many people that helped me put this encampment together, our Safe Camp, Dream Camp together, a very well managed camp. And it worked. It's still working. And I could have never done it without every single one of them. Every single donation came in, big or small, it didn't matter. It meant something to us. And thank you guys to the community that helped support the Safe Camp. Because of you, many got to sleep well because of the tents and the blankets and the pillows. Oh my gosh, the showers. They had showers. Like, we put on our wish list what we wanted and people purchased everything on the wish list. So everything that we got, they got to take a shower. People started sending donations. We were able to get a porta potty. We stopped using the Home Depot bucket and we got a porta potty. That's huge in the homeless world. That's, people, housed individuals are probably like, a porta potty, that's gross. But you know what? A porta potty to us out here, it's luxury. That's luxury, because either you're going squatting behind a building in a bush with nothing, or you're in a plastic bag trying to hold it, or you're in a bucket. So a porta potty, the showers that were provided, the shelters that were provided, the food that was provided, the medical necessities, the hand sanitizers, the amazing amount of masks, and Jonas, you were part of that too. So I was so overwhelmed, and I'm still so overwhelmed to feel that love and see the humanity come back in the street family members and the appreciation that they have. And I worked their butt off. And I'll tell you guys, I didn't let them sleep around, sit around, nothing, because you was up at 7 a.m. If Des is up, you're up, and we all working. And they did an amazing job, you guys. The street family members, they all pulled together. They cleared the field. It took us a week because it's an acre, but we ended up clearing the field and leveling it out. And it's amazing with the house community and the homeless individuals together both created that camp. It was just my idea, but because of them, because of the way the community came together and provided the necessities that they needed in order to survive. I mean, we had Clinica Sierra Vista come all the way down from Bakersfield, California, because we couldn't get anybody to do COVID testing. You know, that's amazing, amazing, because there was no COVID testing provided for the homeless individuals. That when they came down and they offered to come down and they came to the camp, everybody wanted to get to, then they ran over to Santa Clara Street. I mean, just the amount of people that came forward to help with this encampment. I think during the whole time of COVID, I was really depressed. I was really just miserable because there was no sleep for me. It was no sleep. Everybody's hungry. Everybody needs something, you know? But that safe camp, it brought back a little bit of, I don't know, it just brought something back that I noticed the community, they really do care. They wanted to be safe, and I totally understand that. So we had to set up where they drop off at the front and nobody has contact, and everybody respected our camp rules of wear a mask. So it was amazing. And that's, I think, the best part, not saying COVID is good, but during this pandemic, it was just amazing, you guys. There's really no words. That's all, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, this is Jonas. Yeah, I'm gonna add to that. You know what? This kind of work, it has to be in you. I wrote a paper 30 years ago when I was in college that I was gonna be a voice for the voiceless. I became just that. I didn't know I was gonna go through concussion, losing my eye. I had it, lost it to a surgery. So I went through dark times. Out of that, believe me, out of 5 years of advocacy, I got a homeless veteran from Illinois, moved here. I met him in a hotel, got his bus fare, took him to the VA. He had all his medical records, so which he helped me. Out of 5 years, I found one organized, had all his medical records on him. And he got from homelessness, that's my motivation to keep going. From homelessness, I got him $3,700 a month. That is wonderful work. That's humanitarian. We connect. Like if you to see Des and I and Brandy and Akifa on the street, maybe come this Saturday when we feed our with We Are Not Invisible with Des, you come and see how we operate, how we talk to our street family members. We have this human connection. It's unbelievable. A lot of people don't have that. People tell me, what is it, Jonas, that you have? I've always been that person. But it just, during this time, during this tough time, this 6 feet time, we never stop. We Are Not Invisible, never stop. COVID-19 feed, it just motivated me. People are donating masks to me that don't even know me. They heard my story that I do everything for free. I'm not an organization. And it's just wonderful, man. And so there is hope.
Okay, well, there's a mute, so I guess I'll jump in. Couple of things. One of them is We Are Not Invisible did, like I mentioned earlier, does something called Project H2O every year. And that's actually how I ended up getting involved with We Are Not Invisible, because when I moved to Fresno a few years ago and it was started getting hot, you know, you think about people outside and the very, very basic need of water to be able to survive. So I took out waters, and that's where I met Des, and that has that in itself is, with everything else that We Are Not Invisible is taking care of, water is a huge thing. And so it was encouraging. We've been doing it for several years, and seeing people, coming in to help meet that need was definitely an encouraging thing, because it's overwhelming. You're already hot. So it's a difficult job to do, getting waters, packing it, taking it out to people when it could be like 100. And, we got 108 at one point, maybe more. And, but I saw we had people who, had different parts of Fresno that they would go to, parts of their neighborhood, people who are reaching out and getting out of their cars, having their family go out and do that. And then there are people who, couldn't do that, but were, very, very generous, donating, donations, either donating water or donations to buy water or get water jugs or different things, or provide food to go along with it. And that was a huge part of, that was a huge part of, I think that there was also a psychological component of just that love, to people in the midst of this COVID. Of, there were so many conversations I've had, and this, for people being able to meet that need. So that has always been encouraging. The people who showed, their love through making sure that as many people as possible could get water, and especially going out, because it can be very overwhelming when you think about how many people are out there and they all need water and you have to try to get to them. So getting people out there was huge. The other thing is that I think that we'd be lacking if we didn't talk about the fact that the street family themselves are part of the amazing outreach. They are, I think the thing that warms my heart the most is the way that they are trying to take care of each other, that they are being part of, making sure they survive, the ways I've seen people, make sure that someone else is taken care of and help us when we go out there to different places. And the way that there are, before we were even out there, are they trying to take care of each other, the kindness and giving and sharing food and, protecting each other. That is, I think, is huge. And they, there's so many times, during just the summer alone, that in bringing out water, I received so much kindness. I wish I had more of these things and was prepared, but like this right here was an umbrella that one elderly man gave to me in one of the spots I visited with water, because he wanted to make sure that if I'm going to be out in the heat, I have an umbrella over my head so I don't get heat stroke. And that was not the first time someone handed me an umbrella. This one he wanted me to keep. I didn't have pockets one time, and someone found a smock with pockets, so I had a place to keep my phone and whatnot when I was going out and give water. They've given me food that they were eating. They've shared and tried to help out, taking water or taking food and stuff. So I think a really, really huge important part of these solutions and the work that is being done, we have to recognize that the street family members themselves are a huge part of, being that resource to each other and helping each other survive the difficulties that they're facing.
Akifa, anything you want to add to that?
Sorry, I have to go and get my son. Actually, yeah, it's like what's pretty huge for me is like the appreciation, that everybody shows. Definitely, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I haven't been out there in a lot of hub days or nothing like that, but you can tell that people really appreciate just the work that she does. Same thing with you, and the same thing with you, Brandy. Like, yeah, we go out there and we put ourselves on the lines to to do what we can. You know what I mean? Because some of us been there, we've done it, but it's really like the big thing is the appreciation for me. So it's like, because for me, it's like I understand where their appreciation comes from, especially because that's helped me. You know what I mean? And now I'm in my own place. My kids are safe. I got my kids with me. So like, it's the love for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, not everybody knows how to show it, and not everybody knows how to tell it all the time. but the appreciation is definitely there. And that's the big thing for me, because, you give honor where honor is due. So, I definitely appreciate you guys, for all the work that you guys do. And that's pretty much it for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're going to be moving into the Q&A section shortly, but we did want to note that we did extend an invitation to the Marjorie Mason Center to also participate tonight. Unfortunately, they weren't available, but they did want to share a few statistics with the community to be aware of what, how COVID has impacted the people experiencing homelessness, particularly for folks who are also victims of domestic violence. So they shared a couple of statistics here. One, that last year in 2019, the average day in terms of the number of days was about 28. And this year that number has gone up to 44, which means that folks are staying much longer than last year due to COVID. Also as well, folks are also experiencing more abuse. And so we know that for folks who, again, are being impacted by COVID and job losses and all of those different issues, are also experiencing a rise in domestic violence at home as well. And currently about 8 to 10 more families are being taken care of by the Marjorie Mason Center than normal. So again, just want to offer that perspective and just say that this is obviously a very intersectional issue. Folks who are experiencing homelessness, experience different types of issues. And so just wanted to share that, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to get more information from the Marjorie Mason Center. So again, if you haven't had an opportunity to enter your question into the chat box, please do so now, or do so as we continue to answer some of these questions. We've already got a handful of questions, but we'd love to hear more of your questions and give the panelists an opportunity to answer some of them. So this first question that we have here is, and again, anyone from the panel can take this one on first. What are some common stigmas or stereotypes of the homeless population?
I'll go ahead. That they are bums, low lives. It just bothers me. They don't know some of them are veterans. They fought for this country, fought for our freedom. What did I say? Bums, low lives. They need to get a job. And some of them have PTSD, severe at that. They were in combat. Even regular homeless people have PTSD from the violence that they experience on the streets. I want somebody else to take. Yeah, that's what I hear the most. They're bums.
Yeah, that sounds like some of our city council members have taken it upon themselves, and county leaders, city leaders and county leaders. We're not going to mention any names, but I've heard them call them bums, lowlifes, drug addicts, alcoholics. They want to be there. They like being out there. They don't like to follow the rules. They don't want to go to the shelters. They're a piece of trash. I've heard people say that they were just slime on the bottom of a shoe and a snail was better than them. I've heard it all. I've really heard it all. The remarks about they stink. They like smelling like piss. They like eating out of trash cans. They like begging for money. They don't want a life. They don't want a job. They don't want a responsibility. Every excuse. I've heard it. I've heard the most damaging stuff that you can say to an individual out here. And again, these are coming from people that are held in positions where they should not speak like this at all towards any part of their community members. It's a lot. It's a lot. Every word that you can think of, the street family members have been called. Anything you can think of and worse. It'd probably be nice, the compliment, to call them dirt poor, and that's sad because they've been called so much worse that you just kind of wonder what's going on with some people and the way that they talk about, and they don't want to be there. Nobody wants to be homeless, for one. I mean, we have to get that very, very clear. Nobody wants to be homeless. Do a lot of them get adapted to being homeless? Yes. Are they afraid to go inside? Yes. It's just like war. People really got to think about homelessness being war out here on the streets. We send people to war overseas. And when we bring them back, they send them somewhere so they can readjust back to the community, right? Then what's the difference with the homeless? They're out here, they're being raped, beat, stabbed, shot, starving, forgotten about, lonely, sick, diseases. And then it'd be put down from your community. Not only your community, but officers that wear badges, city employees that are supposed to be there to help and not hinder you. It comes from everywhere, you guys. And it's mostly from housed individuals because we don't talk about ourselves, but they're none of those. They're none of those. Do we have crime out in the homelessness? Before anybody asks, yes, we do. But we have crime in housed individuals. We have crime that are in, what are those area neighborhoods that people pay extra because it's home ownership or whatever. What is that called, Brandy?
Gated
Huh?
communities. Gated communities.
Yeah, the ones that pay extra to be in a gated community, but they have crimes inside the gated community. There's crime everywhere, you guys. My street family members do not want to be homeless. If given an opportunity to live how you want to live, then they're ready. They're ready for drug treatment. They're ready for alcohol treatment. They're ready for that stuff, but we don't have it available in Fresno. So they're not. Are they drug addicts? Yes, but it is a disease. Do they have a lot of trash around them? It's called hoarding. Look it up. It is written that is a disease. We have diseases that are causing homelessness and individuals that are putting them down by saying that they want to be there. Nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to have to stay up all night and fight your sleep all night so you're not beat, or a cinder block thrown on your tent and smashing your head, or wake up with some grown ass man on you. They don't want to be homeless, you guys. They don't.
I'm going to jump on this, and I spent a lot of time thinking about this because I feel like it is really important to deal and recognize our stereotypes if we're going to have a meaningful change in the community and response. Because if we're feeding off of, if we're responding to things based off stereotypes, we're not going to get very far. And I highly recommend that people go back and when they find this Facebook video and play back what Des says, because that is huge. But I wrote down a number of thoughts. There's several things that I thought in response to this question that I've been pondering. So there's things like, one of the things is that, I mean, in addition to what Des said, that, I notice that those who are unsheltered tend to be a scapegoat for a number of things. They're automatically blamed without looking at who else might be involved or who else might be involved instead of them. We have issues with dumping, and they get blamed for things that they couldn't have possibly taken to that camp, like large, appliances and things like that. We've seen at camps and people blame them. And we know it. I know that when I lived out in Tulare County, dumping was a huge thing, but it wasn't, they didn't have someone to pin it on. I've had people tell me, they get blamed for, I see it on Nextdoor somewhere, people get blamed for break-ins and vandalism. And I've been told that, yeah, no, that wasn't someone, that wasn't one of us, they might, but it's easy to pin it on them. We've had people who get scapegoated. I think that there was someone, I remember in one of the fields where there was a camp, someone who was not living there came on, did drugs and OD'd, and that was kind of put on them. But that person wasn't even homeless. But it's easy to do that because it's generalized. You don't know, and you can't verify that. There's kind of the pre-belief about that, and I think the problem is, and I have other things, but with the things I'm explaining, I think that whether or not we intend to or not, we tend to make those who are unsheltered, we call them homeless, and we try to make them as other or is different from us in our perception as our awareness can possibly allow us to do. The more we know, the more we can't hold on to those things, but we tend to make them very like a whole, those who are unhoused are a totally different type of person in people's minds, rather than all of us who are, yeah. So as evident when the way that we speak about those who are unhoused, I see it on social media and in people's conversations, and unfortunately in places of power. People are clumped in with the same problem that caused their homelessness, same behaviors, same challenges, which is dehumanizing, because we're not all the same, and neither is anyone out there. Like I said, a common stereotype is largely that everyone out there is a drug or alcohol addict, or have severe mental health issues. And research shows that that's far from true. I actually looked up the National Coalition of Homelessness has found that 38% of homeless people are alcohol dependent, 26% depending on other harmful chemicals, which could be a crossover. But they also stated that oftentimes the addictions are a result rather than the cause of homelessness. They didn't become homeless because of the addictions, but the difficult conditions, this is them quoting, me quoting them, the difficult conditions of living in the street, having to find food, struggling with ill health, being constantly away from loved ones, creates a highly stressful state of being. Individuals suffering from homelessness may additionally develop psychiatric conditions in response to the harsh lifestyle of feeling threatened by violence, starvation, and lack of shelter and love. So, of that percentage I gave you, a much smaller percentage of that, which is hardly, which is less than half of people came in with any sort of addiction. And I agree with her that my experience is that most people had experienced a crisis in their life, and they don't want to be out there. People who are holding those signs out that I've talked to, they have a million stories, but they do not want to be there. But it is, I think it's really important. I think one of the stereotypes also is, if you want to not be homeless, it's really easy to do so. There's resources and you can get off the street, but it is really difficult. Even people who are going to services, it's not easy, and it's really difficult. It takes a lot of time. There's people who have received housing vouchers who are still waiting, and then COVID hit, and then there was less options with that. So there is a lot of reasons why people are out there and trying, but still waiting. There's a lot of reasons, like there's so many reasons, but we talked about, a lot of people are one crisis away from losing their housing, and there's a lot of reasons, such as that I've come across, like having increased housing that they can't afford when they're on a fixed income, having medical issues, having a job loss. I've known several people whose husband died, and that person was the only income person, people who have left domestic violence situations, people who, or other sort of abusive situations, people who ended up had a seizure and lost their driver's license, and it's really hard to get disability because with that, a lot of people who end up with a disability might have to wait years to be accepted for disability, and they don't have a safety net in the meantime to do that. And I feel like the reason why a lot of people believe that most people are out there by choice is because the people that they know who might be on the streets and homeless are those who are there because they're addicted to something and they choose to be there. But those are the people they know. If they knew someone who was at risk of becoming homeless because they are elderly and couldn't afford it, or that person lost a loved one, they would be there helping them. The people the people who are out there do not have a safety net to help them while they recover from the crisis that they're in. Sorry, this is a little bit longer, but I think that there's a lot of things I thought about. Another common one is the idea that the one-dimensional idea about the attitudes of homeless. We hear a lot about they don't want to obey rules, they want to do what they want. but we're not taking in consideration the dynamics of the shelters and how realistic or humanizing they are. The service, people say that there's plenty of services and they just need to access them, but they're not aware of the limitation and how realistic they are. We see programs that don't work for people, and it's not, and don't look at reasons why it's not working. For instance, we have people who don't want, I know women who absolutely refuse and have panic attacks and did not want to go to the shelter near the Niobe's house because they have to leave during the daytime. They can't be in the shelter during the day and they're scared to be in that area. A lot of people don't want to go to those shelters there because they don't feel safe. But if we had client-centered changes, to listen to what needs to be happening and develop those. And of course, like Des says, we need to move away from shelters to transitional housing, but even some changes that happened, like letting families be together and loved ones be together in the same room, being able to have pets, being able to have, being able to stay in the shelter all day and not have to be out during the day all day long makes a difference. And we've seen that because the shelters that made those changes filled up right away and are constantly full. I think another issue is we forget that dignity is important to all humans and is a valid factor. And we think about it for ourselves and even like some of the things we're arguing about as far as with COVID restrictions, we think about our own dignity, but that's important. And that people may choose to survive outside rather than in a shelter that doesn't feel safe or secure or where they feel dehumanized. I think that we have a limited understanding because of our limited view and we tend to lump everyone together. But I think that another important thing rather than that is realizing that many people want to contribute. Our street family members, they want to contribute. Most people want to be valuable. They want to work. If they want to be able to make a difference, they want to be useful. And we've seen that so much. I mean, I talked to someone about a low-income housing that's going on Blackstone, and his first question is like, can I get a application to help work on it? To be a, I see people who are, he wanted to do construction. I know people who that person is helping watch over a motel and keeping it safe. I know people who are trying to keep helping businesses clean up around the area. We see people helping. Everyone wants to be contributing. And if they can, they want a job. They desperately want a job. And we need to recognize that just like those who are housed, that, to see that and not give into the idea that they don't want to work, they want to do it because they do want to work, and like Des said, no one wants to be out there.
Thank you so much, Brandy. We also have a question about the status of the implementation of Project Turnkey here in Fresno. If anybody knows what's going on with Project Turnkey.
What is Project Turnkey?
Turnkey is the one that for I know the name of it. The Villages, the one on Blackstone that the county has purchased with RH Builders.
That's Project Homekey.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay,
is the ones on Parkway, are the ones on Parkway also Project Homekey? Okay.
No, I just thought that Project Turnkey was some other project, but it's Project Homekey. What was the question again?
What the status of the implementation of that project?
Well, I know the county purchased one motel on Parkway Drive. The city purchased 3. That makes 4 hotels. That's 251 rooms. I would say I'm a little confused because they didn't spend any of the Project Room Key money on the hotels, and it's supposed to go to purchase these motels. But then in another story, I'm reading that they use Project Home Key money to purchase these motels. So I'm not clear on what money was utilized because we had millions of dollars in Project Room Key money that was not spent. We want to know where that's at. And then we have Project Home Key money, which is supposed to be utilized to purchase and refurbish old buildings and motels and stuff like that so they can go ahead and house the homeless. As far as I know, come December, they're supposed to be ready by December because I believe HBs had reached out and contacted state and basically said that they have enough beds for everybody in December. So I'm assuming that in December, those motels will be available for shelter, but then I believe you have to go through housing authority in order to get a motel voucher. Not a lot of information has come out. So if anybody else knows a lot of information on those motels. Now, other parts of Project Home Key money was utilized to go towards the Blackstone project, which I love the concept of it being a transitional and permanent. Transitional meaning that they can stay there until they are permanently housed. And then having the other half of it as permanent. I think that's amazing. And that's what we need to do with Project Home Key money, is something that is stable enough and safe enough for them to stay until they are permanently placed. That's what's going on with Project Home Key, as far as I know, and what was been giving out here in the community. If anybody knows any more about it, please call me so I'm up to date.
Yeah,
I
I'm,
know
I'm-
that. Oh, sorry. The only thing I know, but we know that they approved things for Project Home Key with the county to move forward with it, but that's all I know.
yes, I agree with Brandy and Des. Yes, Project Room Home Key for Blackstone and Dakota. Yes, it got approved. They received a grant, 15.3 million from the state. So the money's there. Hopefully it gets going. That'll be huge because it's all a transportation hub. Workforce connection is there, and Q bus is there. So it'll be great for our street family members, to get connected with jobs and transportation. And then those 3 other motels on Parkway, I hope they get going also, because housing authority, like I said, it's not going to be just get in there like that. It's going to be a process. So hopefully if the process shortened, it'll help our street family a great deal if all of them communicate.
But this is where my concern is Parkway, is that with Parkway, why are they not over there cleaning up right now? If they're going to open next month in December and have 251 beds or rooms available for the homeless, why are they not cleaning up the drugs, the sex trafficking, the prostitution, the pimps, the shootings, the stabbings? Why are we not cleaning that up right now and preparing it for families that will show up with children? It's beyond me why that whole strip is not being cleaned up right now, why they're not hot on it, why the cops are not just sitting on the corner preventing all these crimes to happen. Because if you're sitting there, they're not going to do nothing, and if you sit there long enough, they're going to get pissed off and go somewhere else. But my concerns is having those motels on Parkway Drive, because nothing's being cleaned up over there. Like I said, the crime is getting worse, and now you're about to put homeless individuals in these motels over there. I think something else could have been done. Take more of that money if you needed it, clean up that whole block, and make it safe. Because I'm sorry, that is going to be like, nobody wants to be on Parkway right now that doesn't reside over there. And it's scary enough if you don't know that area and you don't know people over there. It's scary enough to leave your motel and walk to Denny's to get something to eat. So I think it needs to be cleaned up. I think a lot of this money needs to be utilized to help better that whole block, make it nice, make it livable, because it's not just drug addicts and alcoholics that are going to be wanting a bed in there. It's going to be family members, you guys. It's going to be children. They're going to have to walk to Denny's or Rally's or the gas station. I don't know. If they don't clean it up, I just see it as a waste of money. That's my opinion.
Yes, Des, I agree. I agree with you. Yes, the women, children in there, and they're going to walk to school. You know how safe they're going to be. So the cleaning aspect of that whole block, we've been known. I've lived here in Fresno for 35 years. It's just been the same to me, you know. And like I said, our voices, hopefully they get heard, because we're on the ground every day. We see everything unraveling, and for the city to do that, we have to have safety implement in place for those women and children to be safe from crime.
Yeah, that's why I'm most excited. I mean, I am very excited about Crossroads Village, the one that's on Blackstone, um, Dakota, because the whole plan is that like a multifaceted agency thing to, to keep everything safe, to have security, have staff that's around. They're also doing something that is a huge part of transitional housing, which is having on-site services to help people. I believe that it's starting off as, housing, primarily with a lot of focus on hoping to getting families and whatnot and stuff, and then going to be low income housing, but it would be something that would be available something that they're way to be able to address the homelessness. But they also, so they're doing their part in having that be, beautiful, safe, dealing with some of the issues that are going on with the property right now, which is a motel. But it's also, the thing that's heartening is that it puts families in the community. They're close to services, or close to the services that are in the mall. They're close to grocery stores. They're close to schools. And, so we don't have to worry about the it being safe for those families. It will be, it's right across the street from the bus, the major bus center. And that's really good news, that we were going to have one that is going to not be on the fringes, but be something where the families can be in, have access to resources in a safe neighborhood.
Great. And now we have another question that was related to something that came up earlier. Can homeless children access online schooling? What solutions are there for homeless kids to get to school?
Let me go there, because I had this experience with when I had my safe camp. I had family members come, and I would take them in immediately. I'm never going to turn them away. But that was one of the downfalls, is not having Wi-Fi service available for the children. Even if I did have Wi-Fi service, sometimes I turn on my hotspot on my phone, but that didn't help if they didn't have a computer. It was difficult. It was really difficult for the children. There was a lot of children that their families would go down to McDonald's, sit outside McDonald's. If you have Xfinity, they'll find a spot. Somebody's got Xfinity at their house. And sometimes when you see them sitting outside on the block in front of your house or something on their phone, they're utilizing it, hopefully for, to get their business done. But no, there wasn't. I know Fresno Rescue Mission has said that they did have availability Wi-Fi service. I don't know if they provided laptops for the children, but I know that they did have a room set up where the computers or the room was set up as like a school room. So I know Fresno Rescue Mission had said that that's what they were doing. But as far as the homeless individuals that are on the streets, or the ones that were at my camp, no, they did not have any access to Wi-Fi. They didn't have access to go to school.
Thank you. And it looks like we're going to circle back a little bit to a previous question that, apologies, Akifa, I don't think you got a chance to answer, about what are some common stigmas or stereotypes of the homeless population? Did you want to chime in about that?
I mean, honestly, what I was gonna say already was said, so I don't think it'll be necessary for me to really repeat it.
Great, thank you. Perfect. So we'll go to the next question then. It's
I'm sorry. I was going to tell Akifa, your question is basically like, it would be good to hear from her. Like, what was it that you heard out there when you were homeless? Well, how did the community react to you? How did officers or leaders or anything react to you while you were homeless?
And maybe even how you would think that people should be changing that, responding differently.
I mean, city council really, I don't say no names or nothing. I mean, they looked at me like as if like I had something on the side of my face or something after I had, because I had the issue with my daughter passing away and stuff. So, I mean, I was looked at like as a bad parent, for being homeless, I mean, most of the time, as far as like other people go, they didn't really talk to me, but I got stares. Like it is. I don't really know how to explain it. Like there was some people that didn't look at me a certain type of way. I was called a bad parent. I mean, there was nothing I was able to do about being homeless. Like, I tried to go for the resources and try to get help, but you know, I'm being looked at like as if like I wanted my kids out there, and like they say, nobody wants to be homeless, and yes, some people do get comfortable after being out there for so long. I think at one point you kind of start to lose hope when it's like I've been homeless for years, things like that. Um, I was told that, oh, I'm not looking at the right resources, or I'm like the rest of the homeless community. I'm like, I don't know necessarily what that's supposed to mean because not everybody is the same. And I was always fighting. I continued to fight even to this day to not have to go back and be homeless again, and just things like that. I think more or less I got just looked down upon because I had my kid and I was also pregnant. So I definitely got a lot of stares, and people kind of just looked at me the wrong way.
And people need to understand that Akiva didn't choose to become homeless. She was actually kicked out of the shelter while she was 3 months pregnant, while she had a 1-year-old child. This director felt that she didn't need to hear her side of the story and automatically kicked out a pregnant homeless youth out of the shelter. Akiva went through a lot. I know there's a lot of people that had seen her story the whole year. Her story was on. It was being aired. She was begging for help. She went to city council. She begged for help. They had to have known her. She was always sitting in the lobby trying to get her kids warm because it was so cold outside. The things that the law enforcement would say to her is, like, if you don't get your ass off the street, then we're going to come back with CPS and take your kid. And we're going to take the one in your stomach. This is the way they would talk at her instead of offering her for help. There was also people that showed up that asked to take her kids. They wanted her baby that was in her stomach. And instead of helping her, they felt that she was a bad mother. So they went and got CPS, and the sheriff and CPS showed up at her foot because she was asleep. She was just chilling. And they basically said, if you do not get up right now and come with us to the shelter, we will take your child and we will take the one that you're getting ready to have. And I'm pretty sure she surprised them because she's always been looking for a place. Just everybody would put her down. They would see her out there with the kids and say, I would never do that. I would find resources. I would find a way. There's always something. No, there's not. Because that homeless youth shelter is the one that kicked her out there and put her out there in the position to live out on the streets for 8 months until she had her baby, and still was out there after that. And unfortunately, rest in peace, baby, sorry. She's not here with us today, and somebody could have helped. Instead of calling the CPS and the sheriff, those ladies could have asked her, is there anything we can put you into a room? We can do this, we can do that. Instead, they wanted to take her child from her because they felt she was a bad parent. And she wasn't even drinking or doing drugs. Akiva went through a lot. She went through a lot, and people talked down on her, called her bums. Homeless Task Force was always mean, trying to grab her stuff. She needs everything that she has because she had her child, her daughter, and she was pregnant. So the stuff that she went through emotionally, and from what I heard every single time I talked to her about what people said or they called her or the videos I watched that she took, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking because she was a youth, or she is the youth still, and she was pregnant and she was fighting to survive and protect her child when you have to put your baby at the bottom of your sleeping bag in order to protect them from the harm that can be done or the cold. It's really sad, but she's not a bad parent, never was a bad parent. Unforeseen circumstances put her in the position where she ended up at the youth shelter. And it's all due to, people need to think that when they have foster children, that they're aging out, that means the system lets you go. You fall on your face. So at 17, they aged her out of the system, which made her become homeless. And that started the reoccurring homelessness. She ended up housed, but then unfortunately ended up losing that. And that's where she ended up at the youth shelter that we have here in Fresno. And because of what they did by kicking her out of the youth shelter, she had to live out there until she gave birth, until the sheriff showed up and put her into shelter. And she was excited. She jumped up and she was like, let's go, because I've been waiting. What took y'all so long to get here and say something like this or get me a shelter, because she'd been fighting all that time. So it is harmful what people say, or when they assume that people want to be homeless, or they assume that he or she's got to be on drugs because they're out here with their kids. Take time and sit there and talk to them. Maybe you won't be so judgmental and think that all homeless individuals want to be there, or we're committing crimes while we're out there and we don't want responsibilities and jobs and following rules. We do. So that was it. I'm sorry, that kind of like hits me, so I had to speak on it, Akifa.
And I'd like to know from Kifa, like what you would want people to know, about your, about that, with that question, as far as like, people who are out there that when you were out there, like what you would want people to know instead of the stereotypes. I love what you shared though.
I mean, like, let me say it like this. As far as what I would want people to know, because it's sad, and honestly it disgusts me in a big way, because it's like you don't just look at somebody and be like, you're disgusting or you stink. You never know why that person stinks. You don't know what it would be like if you stink. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what happened if you were put in the same situation as somebody else that is homeless? You will know what it's like when you don't got a sleeping bag, when you don't have a blanket, when you can't get nothing to eat. So it's like you just can't look at somebody. Don't judge a book by its cover. That saying is really true, even though a lot of people don't understand it. Because it's like you can't look at somebody and just be like, oh, they're a horrible person, or they're out here because they want to be out here. You don't know that person's story. That's also the reason why, Des, I appreciate you for the public in the parks, because I mean, you get a chance to sit down and actually listen to other people's stories. You know what I'm saying? It's not just about the food. It's about being able to actually communicate and figure out a way. Like, hey, you know what? I've been there. I've done that. Like, this is how I got through it. So to me, I would prefer for you to try to support that person than to try to knock that person down. That would be my perspective of it.
Thank you. And just a reminder, if you have questions, please type them into the chat box. We are currently going through Q&A, so it looks like there's a few folks who were wondering how to do that. So you can just put your question in the chat box and you'll have an opportunity to hopefully answer all of the questions. Des, you were sharing earlier about the Safe Camp, and there was a question related to that. They said, Des, what is happening now at the Safe Camp? What is needed there now?
Well, unfortunately, when the city had sat down with the state approximately a couple of weeks ago and convinced them that these motels will cover the amount of homeless individuals we have out here on the streets, they basically talked the state into getting with them on the sweep. So as of December, I understand that the city, the county, and state will be removing all homeless individuals off properties. Where to? Probably the railroad tracks, because the feds are not involved. So don't be surprised if you see a lot of people on railroad tracks in December. But because of that, I'm exhausted. I am exhausted of fighting the city and the county and the city's employees coming over, code enforcement and random people saying that they have to get on the property to look for gas lines or access to. I'm exhausted, you guys. I'm exhausted. So unfortunately, I'm starting to have to break down because I don't have enough in me anymore to fight, especially now that I'm gonna have 3 agencies coming at me. The state is amazing. They're amazing. I love them. They love me. They love what I'm doing. We're trying to figure out something for the future. But right now, it looks like, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to shut down. I am going to try and utilize it for services, such as needle exchange, doing medical checkups, giving out food. Because if the state allows me to stay there, legally the city, everybody's going to turn around and say, oh, well, she needs permits and she needs this and she needs that and insurance. How many people is she going to have there? It just turns into like a political thing. Like, we've been just fine. We've been just fine. I've never had the police called there. I've never had an ambulance there. Well, except for one time when I had my accident. But I mean, you guys don't hear anything bad about my safe camp. And I wish they would help us create more of these and make them legalized, managed safe camps. So the individuals that they are removing off the streets do have somewhere to go. But as of for right now, I do have tents up. I do have some people still on there. I'm going to use it as an emergency because if they come and we have to pack up, I don't want to have that much stuff to pack up. So slowly we've been breaking things down. We'll leave, like I said, we'll leave the tents up. So any emergency, it's raining, it's freezing, it's cold. I already let the individuals that are already residing there to allow them to go ahead and open up the gate. But as far as everything else, it doesn't look like it's gonna happen. The fight is too hard by myself. It's really too hard by myself, but it worked, you guys. It's not a failure. And trust and believe, I do not feel like the safe camp was a failure, because the safe camp is something that our city and county has numerous times said forever that a freaking homeless camp would not work. And it works. It works. I proved it. So now it's up to them, and the people that have the money are able to manage places like this and run places like this. Hopefully somebody will step up and do it. Unfortunately, I don't have the money and the income and finances for staff, insurance, continued food, all this stuff that they would throw on me if I stayed there permanently. I just don't have it. But I mean, to be able to utilize it for an emergency, if it's freezing cold and raining, you come in, lay in a tent. And it'd be great to use for medical checkups, you know, because there are already still 400 people out there around that area, for them to be able to go somewhere and shower. I got a camper you guys donated. I haven't put that out yet, but here it is now. I got a camper donated and an older model truck in order to tow it. So I was thinking maybe I can use that camper to give showers while we're doing medical checkups and needle exchange at the same time, and serving food and giving out necessities. But again, as far as letting people live there, I don't think they're gonna let me do that anymore. I really don't. Some miracle is gonna happen in December, and we're gonna have beds for everybody, and COVID's ending. So therefore, we don't need to allow Des to do this anymore. So that's what's gonna happen right now with the safe camp.
Thank you for that update. We're running out of time for questions, so I'm going to try to run through as many of these, and then maybe we can just have one person respond, just for the sake of time. So we do have a question about asking, can you talk about how even after being housed, the statistics and reality of becoming homeless again? So this sort of, you know, you can become homeless more than once, right? And so anybody want to kind of talk about sort of some of those statistics or what you've seen on the ground?
It goes a lot with people that are low income, disability, set income. I was going to say normal because you're so used to it, but every single year, let's say you have people on disability, Social Security, or they have a McDonald's job, you know, minimum wage job. Every year the rent goes up. So every year somebody can become homeless every single year. After I got housed from being homeless, my lease contract was up. The owner no longer wanted me there because of course I'm an advocate. He should have thought about that before he let me in. But then I ended up, Brandy let me stay at her place, and it took me like, what, 4 months to find a place? It took me 4 months to find a place. And if it wasn't for Brandy, and if it wasn't for Brandy, I would have been back in my car out there on the street. Well, I kind of doubt it because there's so many good people in the community I've met. But I mean, imagine not knowing anybody and being on low income or having a minimum wage job. The rent keeps on increasing. This means every single year somebody's going to have to move out. Hundreds of people are evicted or they have to move out. And it's because they lost a job or it's because the rent went up. So every time the rent goes up every single year, people become homeless constantly, all the time. All the time. If I lose this place, then I'm going to be homeless again. Why? Because it's very hard to find something that I can afford in Fresno right now. So if I was to lose my apartment right now, I'd become homeless again. You know, so it's a lot. It happens a lot.
Thank you. And now there was also a question related to the city and what work the city is doing around this. And so there was a question here, has the city made any attempts to reach out to the homeless community in order to inform them on the progress of these accommodations? So I think it's related to some of the different shelters that that folks were talking about. So any thoughts on how the city is handling the situation?
I'll probably let Brandy go ahead and answer this one. She's our politic girl, but I've never known the city to come out and address the street family members ever to update them. We don't have brochures. We don't have paperwork. There's nothing. The way the street family members know is, you know, they got their phone and they'll watch the news. They'll read the Fresno Bee or they'll read the Community Alliance. This is how they stay updated with the politics and stuff, because 9 times out of 10, they go to City Hall. They can't get in. They won't let them in because they smell. But Brandy, you can probably better answer that question. You're on mute.
Yes, let me know. What was the question? Because what you answered made me realize I didn't hear it right.
Yeah, it was related to the efforts that the city has been making. So the specific question was, has the city made any attempt to reach out to the homeless community in order to inform them on the progress of these accommodations?
I'm not aware of that. Yeah, I mean, I know that, you know, basically, I think that things are, you know, available to the public, but to specifically outreach and try to have there, I don't believe that there is any team or anything that is involved in educating and outreaching and updating the homeless on things. I'm not sure as far as, I mean, I know that when there are some things available, I think, I honestly, I'm not sure about what they're doing as far as informational outreach to those who are on the streets. I know that, you know, a long time ago, the only thing I can remember is when when people who do outreach had the things to connect them to maps, which is a whole thing in itself. But as far as these updates, well, I'm not sure how they're informing. I believe that they have people who through COVID funds. I noticed that on the budget that there is organizations. I don't remember if it's West Side or what it was, but I know that I believe that the budget included outreach in general. But as far as informational, as far as these things, I'm not aware of anything.
Thank you. And now I think final question, because I think we're going to be wrapping up with a couple of closing thoughts. So there's a question here around talking about the difficulty about keeping a job while being homeless. They provide examples like no clean clothes and or showers.
Yes. It's extremely hard. Is it impossible? No, it depends on what kind of job you have. I'll put it like that. We have a lot of people that we do have farm workers that are homeless, sleeping out there on Ventura and G Street amongst all the rest of the individuals. They get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, they get ready, their truck comes, they get in, they leave, they come back. They don't get to shower after working all day. And you wonder why some of the street family members think they don't get to shower, they miss dinner, they miss breakfast because they have to get up and go to work so early in the morning. And it is hard. It is hard for individuals to go up and look for a job or work somewhere that's indoors. Let's say that you are living down there on Santa Clara Street and you're living in your tent. You have to get up about 6 o'clock in the morning. And let's say you're working up there on Herndon at Walmart or something, you know, it takes an hour and a half, 2 hours of bus system to get from that point A to point B. You have to miss breakfast because breakfast doesn't start until 8:30 in the morning. And by the time you take the bus back home, you done missed dinner. So is it impossible? It's not impossible. It's extremely hard for people to hold down a job and be homeless at the same time. But it is possible. It's just extremely hard, you guys. It's extremely hard without food, lack of sleep, and everything. You're sometimes get fired because you got an attitude. And the manager didn't like the way you came in this morning with that attitude. And he doesn't know that you fought all night last night, an individual from taking your stuff. So you would actually have something to survive on. So it's just hard. It's not impossible, but it's hard.
Thank you. So now we're going to be doing some closing thoughts. I think the important piece here is to really encourage folks to get involved and let them know how they can get involved. So we'll go through each panelist, if they can share for about 3 to 5 minutes. What are some opportunities community members and students can get involved with We Are Not Invisible or other efforts that are going on the ground? And then are there specific asks that you have of the community?
For We're Not Invisible, there's really no qualification. The only qualification is compassion and understanding and non-judgmental. I mean, that's really the only qualifications you need in order to treat somebody like a human. But we have a couple projects coming up. Just go ahead and go to wanif.org and go to the volunteer section and just go ahead and fill out the volunteer form. Let us know what you're interested in, because within WANI, we cover everything. If you like social media, if you like administrative work, if you like research work, investigation work, I mean, you like feeding the people, you like sorting laundry, you like doing laundry, you like cooking food, everything we have that's available within our organization. So let us know what you like to do, because I don't want you doing something that you're not comfortable with, because I'm not going to have you that long. So let us know what you like to do, what you like to help out with. We do have potluck in the park coming up this Saturday. We are taking Project Share the Warmth items. Project Share the Warmth is an evening outreach team. When every other organization closes at 5 o'clock, we are up and we are out at 6 p.m. Sometimes we don't get until 12 o'clock at night, because we just drive the streets with hot chocolate, hard-boiled hot eggs, and usually burritos, because they're nice and warm and they fill you up. It's solid, so it can fill you up so you can sleep well. And that's an outreach. A lot of people like prayer, so sometimes I like to take somebody who likes to pray a lot, because people do ask for prayer when they're out there. What else? Oh, and we have Toys and Joys going on right now. So Toys and Joys for girls and boys is, we will be visiting the family shelters that have opened up during the summertime for homeless families. So we will be going to these shelters and we will be delivering toys for the individuals, for the children that are living in shelters. And we are also going to be delivering toys to the children that are living on Parkway Drive over there in the motels. They're the most forgotten children that I have come across yet so far. So Toys and Joys was created about 4 or 5 years ago, due to the forgotten homeless children that are residing in motels then, but now we have motels and shelters. So those are the two major things that I have opening up. If you like to cook, please let me know, because I'm gonna be cooking for a lot of people, and we do need help. We do need help with serving, collecting, picking up donations, dropping off donations. I need help with everything, you guys. So whatever you like to do, I will find that thing that you like to do in our organization.
Okay, no one's talking. I'll go ahead and I forgot to unmute myself, so I guess I will talk. Yeah, I agreed. Like, yeah, again, in the post for, I mean, if you're in this chat right now, if you look on the chat thing, the links to the website and those ways to get involved. Thank you for whoever's well, someone with homeless in Fresno is posting those. So if you're in this chat, you can do that. Otherwise, you can go to, if you happen to be seeing this from somewhere else other than the Homeless in Fresno Facebook page, go to the Homeless Fresno Facebook page, and you can see a lot of information, including the links to those things, and on the page to get involved in those things. I also I want to bring up that someone posted, I mean, there's ways that you can advocate as well that are coming up. Alex, thank you. Alex Sanchez posted that there's the Fresno, hold on, let me make sure I say this correctly. Fresno County, let's see, Fresno County Community Housing Forum discussion on housing needs in our communities. That is going on Zoom tomorrow. There's gonna be 2 days. I guess it's gonna be from 6 to 7 and 3:30 to 4:30, which I guess we can post on our page or whatnot. If you're in the chat, he put the link on there. Also, someone shared that the Commission on Police Reform has their recommendations to the City Council is being presented and considered for approval by the City Council at 1 p.m. On Thursday. And you know, one of the things we vocalized through different things. One thing I appreciate is that a lot of our city family members had a chance to participate in their survey and share about their experiences. And some of the recommendations, we need support having all their recommendations approved. And some of them include having, you know, people who are like social workers and other people going out to the homeless rather than police officers. I'll have to look at those things.
Cahoots.
What's that?
Tell them to look up Cahoots. If we can put Cahoots in the notes, and if people are interested in the changes that we're asking for regarding the homeless task force and different agencies and organizations to get together to go out. It's called Cahoots. We need support for that to actually come to Fresno from the community.
Yes. So I imagine we'll put on our Facebook page the links to those things. So yeah, advocating for them is huge. And I would also add that in addition to helping with the organization, you know, the people that you see in your community, love on them, you know, make sure that they have something warm, you know, take, you know, sleeping bags and warm clothing and stuff, you know, befriend those who are in your community and you know, reach, because, you know, I know that there's other people that, you know, the more people reaching out and taking care of people would be great. But we definitely have a lot of ways to get involved through We Are Not Invisible.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to tell you thank you for having me. I've done great things in 5 years. One of them is, if you can see this flyer, I made this veterans home transportation. Yes, the veterans home on California didn't have any transportation until I arrived to this work. So I want to encourage every student that is on this Facebook, this Zoom, there's hearing me, take a cause like I did. I'm not a veteran, okay? And I was a war child 3 times. And so I survived my concussion, my vision loss. I'm going after this, and I can teach you how to do this. You got to have a heart, like Des was saying. You got to have the compassion. You have to be relentless. Even with COVID, I'm not going to stop. I even working longer hours, and it's just satisfying to see their smile. And not only that, I have, during this COVID time also, I created this last year, this transportation for the veterans home. Okay, just a shuttle from the veterans home to the courthouse for free with their ID. And then again, during this COVID time, since I'm a board member for FACTS, the veterans get to ride the bus, the city bus, for 60 cents. And the rural area transit from Kalinga to Selma to Kingsburg for free. Mendota. So you can do it. You have to be committed. And if you come Saturday, and please donate to Des organization, because I've seen her do some marvelous work on the ground. Her, Brandy, her organization, and Akifa, they're just, you know what? They motivate me. We never stop. Once you get to be an advocate, we signed up for everything that comes with it. And it's so when you go out there, you have to be compassionate, because these people are broken. They have PTSD. We even have prisoners got released, okay, into our homelessness. Yes, we forgot about them. Yes, they added to it. Okay, they added to our homelessness, already existed. Okay, they're coming in there with their PTSD too, because veterans and people incarcerated have PTSD because
I
they
don't
always have
think
to watch
they.
over their back.
I'm sorry, Jonas, but you brought up a very good point. I don't think the community also knew that during COVID, when these prisons were releasing everybody, that every single individual that was charged in Fresno got dropped back off in Fresno. And let me tell you something, you guys, they really do pull up, the sheriffs really do pull up to Poverello House and let them out of the car and drop them off right there. This is added to because they caught the charge here. I was like, why are you here? He was like, I was in prison for 14 years until 8 o'clock this morning. They came in and said, we're transferring you to Fresno. And he said, I live in LA. And they said, you caught your charge in Fresno. And he said that he went to one stop in Stockton. They checked him for COVID. It came back negative, I guess, within an hour. And then they transported him to Fresno. And this is happening a lot, and it's still happening. People don't understand. Prisons, when you're released from prisons, they do get transportation, but they're dropped off at the front door. And that's it. So I'm glad you brought that up, Jonas. I forgot all about that. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's very true. Not only that, you met that one man, remember? Now he's inside the shelter, yes, on a wheelchair with disability, an older gentleman, 67 years old. On top of that, guess what? He's a veteran. So I'm going to help him. Thank God for Des. We'll continue to feed him. He's in a temporary shelter now. And these are the things we run into. We run into an older man also, 81 years old, released from prison. So there's those. So the number is high. We don't know. 5,000, 6,000. We don't know. Thank you for having me.
Akifa, any closing thoughts or invitations to folks who are watching right now?
There's still a lot of students right now. I mean, there's a lot of homeless students. I mean, I know that like everything's online and stuff. Like, just don't give up, because I mean, I'm in school. Well, not this semester, but I just finished, my semester, last semester in school. But I don't want y'all to give up, and shit. I mean, shoot. Excuse me. My language. Cause like the sailor. With everything that's going on, yes, I get that there's social distancing and stuff, but I mean, now that we're doing all the learning and stuff online, there's no excuse for why nobody can't go out there and show compassion to somebody else. Also, I know Fresno City, they do the RAM pantry for a lot of people that are students there. All you got to do is just give them your ID number, your school ID number, and you can get like up to like 20 items there, noodles, things like that, stuff that you can literally go and take out to the homeless people. So honestly, like I said, with us not, a lot of people not working, a lot of people not going to school, or physically going to school and working right now, there's no excuse for why nobody should be going out there. So definitely, reach out to, Des, or, on the website, like she said, and just, it takes one. It just only takes one person. You know what I mean? Des' son was that one person for me, and then Des ended up being that person for me. But it only takes one of us just to make somebody's day a little bit brighter. So just always remember that.
Thank you so much, Akifa, Jonas, Brandy, and Des. And with that, we're going to close out the session, and really want to appreciate everybody for being on tonight. Go ahead, Brandy.
I just because I wanted to just think about all this stuff in light of something that I see a lot on that people have been bringing up a lot, and I want to whatever, like what Kikifa says should stick with you, but I know that some people who are frustrated, they mention a lot about people on the highways, and I just want, in light of all the things, remember the things that you heard, that, you know, and have compassion, because people have nowhere to go. They're being pushed out of places that aren't in the city, and because they aren't, you know, they aren't being pushed out from, because the state is following the mandate and can be there safely. They're going where they can be safe, where they're not going to be threatened to be moved and stuff. So I just want to add, and I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that, to have compassion on there. If they could, they would be somewhere else. But people are going where with people who have nowhere else to go, are going wherever they can find to be able to have a place to sleep. I don't know if Des or anyone else wants to jump in on that.
You
but-
just have to be strong, very, very strong. I think the best advice is, if you have any triggers, please make that known, because we'll know what best spot to put you in. Because some people I get that volunteer, there's certain areas that they request not to go to because that was their past, and it's a lot of triggers and stuff. So if anybody wants to do outreach like we do, boots on the ground, it takes some time. It really takes some time. Don't let it get you down. There's a couple of people, it took like a year, you guys. I mean, I was constantly in their face all the time, letting them know every day, I'm here, I care, here's something to eat, here's a pillow, here's a sleeping bag, here's a pair of socks. I continuously let them know, and it took like a year to break them, because they said I was the freaking cops and they thought I was trying to set them up. Compassion, you guys, it's I think all of us have said that, and that's the most important thing that you can have. So if you have compassion and strength, because a lot of the stuff that you will see out here in the streets, and the people that you do sit down and talk to, you will take that home, and some of the stories will keep you up. So make sure that you get involved with what you want to get involved with, either boots on the ground, or in a cafeteria helping us cook, or helping us do some research. Just please make sure that that is what you want to do, because I don't want to turn anybody to come out and help and then say that's too much for me, I can't do it. It is very hard out here to see some of the lives that people have to live, and then once you get to know them, their stories go home with you, and they stay with you. You'll never forget them. So just be strong. Compassion. I think we all said that. Compassion. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you, Louise. I want to thank Belle. I want to thank Fresno State. I want to thank you, Akifa, Brandy, Jonas. Thank you guys. This was amazing. If anybody wants to have any other questions, feel free to inbox us. And if it's for anybody specific, we'll forward it to Jonas. We'll forward to Akifa. But Brandy and I will be checking the messages. And if you have any other questions when we're done with this, then please feel free to go ahead and have a question through there. And if it's for anybody else, we'll go ahead and forward that for them. But thank you guys again for being there. And thank you. You were such a good moderator.
Thank you all so much. And I hope you all have a good
Great
night.
job, Luis.
And we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you. Bravo, everyone.
Thank you.